is on it, buddy. Well, about 1 o'clock this morning, I felt like getting on up and doing a little sweeping, get my broom out. As Janai Broom continues to sweep up the floor out in Maui. Auburn wins 85-72 over North Carolina. And let me just say this before we dive into this one, Randy. A little bit late for everybody, but I could not stay up and watch Auburn, North Carolina, and got off to a fast start. We'll dive into all that. But, man, Janai Broom is making in 1 week is making a case for the best player in the country. And, man, there were some great games on last night all over the country, especially in Las Vegas. There were a couple of big games that went on, but we had a really, really big game. It's the only one that we care about, really, was the one that happened last night. And Auburn's in the championship game tonight or this afternoon at 4 o'clock against Memphis. So I don't know that anybody really expected Memphis out of that side of the bracket. But I just got to ask you, did you stay up?
I stayed up long enough for the second half for us to go on that run. And then I said, I feel like if we lose it here and I wake up in the morning and we lost it, then so be it. There's
Right.
not much from a fan standpoint I can do. So both halves, Brett, the start of the game and the start of the second half, I thought those were the keys to the basketball game. And Janai starting so strong in the first half really got us out early. I keep saying that's an X factor for me, is run the offense through Janai Broom and let him take you to the promised land. And he did last night, Brett. And he also knocked down a couple of three-pointers in the first half. That was ideal. The Memphis matchup. Here's a quick thought. If whoever we're matching up with the rest of the year is not really good in the post, especially defensively, they're going to struggle with us because some of the change-ups we've done on the offensive sets with moving the ball around and trying to find our guys on the block or at least close to their spots where they can get the ball in the paint and score the basketball. And if we keep shooting free throws the way that we are in this tournament, namely Denver Jones, who's only missed one free throw in the season. But if you've got a point guard that's touching the ball a lot and can go to the game late in the game and you feel fairly confident that he's going to shoot it at a 90% clip, that makes a massive difference. But it was a great win last night. I think we got a winnable game today in the championship, a very young Memphis team that's really, really talented. I think they're the 32nd ranked RPI team in the country. Maybe right inside the 30. I know that's where they were when I looked last week. Maybe they're in the high 20s. So a very good basketball team for Memphis, but not a deep basketball team. In that semifinal game, their starters averaged 25 or 26 minutes apiece in that game. So think about that, Brett. We were last night able to give a couple of our guys semi-rest in the second half. And Chaney Johnson played a majority of the second half. And I know we'll talk about that, but he didn't play much of the second half in the previous game because of foul trouble. So we're deep, buddy. We're really deep. And I can't be more happy where we're currently sit with our basketball program.
Yeah, led wire to wire last night. North Carolina never led the game. There's only been 2 SEC teams to ever win the Maui Invitational, Vanderbilt and Kentucky. Kentucky was the last one to do it in 1993, man. That's been a while. So, the SEC, obviously, the level of play has risen over the last 10 years, top to bottom in this league. I think Missouri won at one time, but they weren't in the SEC at the time, so it didn't count as an SEC win. But, again, Auburn's got another opportunity. It goes back to that quote from Bruce Pearl, just continue to make history at Auburn. They'll have the opportunity to win the Maui Invitational. And, Randy, a lot of times teams that win this tournament, they go on to go to the Final Four or maybe even win. I think they said last night every time Roy Williams had a North Carolina team that won a national championship, they won this tournament 2 or 3 times. I think all three. I think he won 3 of them, and he won national titles in those years as well, according to what they said on the broadcast last night. So again, it really starts with Broome. We got some comments coming in, and we're going to get to them. Jerron said, Wardam Eagle, obviously excited about the way the game was played last night. And then Patrick says, Broome is unstoppable. The refs are inconsistent. Jones at point guard gets the offense going. Semo and Cardwell are elite defenders. CBM is a wild card, but I'm glad he's on our team. Yeah, that's again, it started off a little sketchy last night. He goes over a table and then hops off. And you and I were in a text thread. He does like attention. I mean, let's be honest about it. He's going to try to draw eyes to him, and but that's the player he is. But he ends up with 14
and 7.
14 points last night. So
had 18 points in the second half of the previous game. I mean, he's an all-tournament team member. Auburn's not winning these games like we are without CBM. So I'm one that hopes that he learns to contain it and we don't have a repeat of what we saw with Yale last year, but I certainly am glad he's on our team. And one thing I noticed last night, of course, they're really good with their guard play, and they showed last night. Their post play wasn't very good at North Carolina, nowhere near where we've seen in the past. Their guards were really good. But I don't know if you noticed in the second half, when we started, our length with CBM and Miles Kelly defending guards can make it really tough on the opposition. And I've complained about that with Auburn over the last 4 or 5 years, is our lack of size at the guard. It's not that we're not good on-ball defenders. I thought Zep Jasper was a tremendous on-ball defender, but he was giving up so much size and athleticism. And we don't have that issue. J.P. Pegues at times looks like a few of those guys that we were talking about, Brett, but the rest of these guys, including Tahad Pettiford, are so athletic and so long. And Miles Kelly and CBM, if they're defending the way that they are, and they're really long arms. Those two guys are tremendous, and I think they're only getting better. Yep.
Yeah, you got those long guys that just take up a lot of real estate. The court's only so wide. And
hands and passing lanes.
Like I said, the first time I ever went to an NBA game, it looked like a bunch of giants standing around in a cardboard box. I mean, you're like, how can you even move out there and get a pass off and make a drive to a basket when you got that many big guys standing around? So that's what we've been missing for a while. And now that we got some length out on the perimeter, it makes it difficult for teams like North Carolina that has guards that's what they depend on more than anything. Again, I say it over and over. When you get to 10 threes, you like your chances. And Auburn hit 11 out of 30 last night. And this starting to feel like the 19 team. Again, we got a lot of basketball left to play. We're not even in conference play yet. But what we're doing in the pattern of the way we play and win games is very similar to what we did in 2019 when we went to the Final Four. So
let me jump in, though. I'm going to disagree a little bit. I really think this is a much better team, Brett.
Well, I'm not saying the quality of team is the same. I'm saying the pattern and the way we win the basketball games. We're being able to shoot the ball outside, but we know we've been inside. We know the presence inside's been great. The last 2 or 3 years, Randy, when we drive and kick out, we've been throwing up bricks. And
I think your comparison shooting from the perimeter is spot on. But that team lost 10 basketball games. They won 30 of them. But if this Auburn team loses 10 basketball games, I don't see where they're going to come. And that team really had to shoot from deep. They needed Jared Harper and Bryce Brown to go off, and Okiki or some other to also step in and play like that. We were not very good offensively down in the post that year. We had some pieces that were decent, but nowhere near to the level that we are now. And Brett, I don't think we talk enough about Dylan Cardwell. How much has that guy improved, especially on the offensive end? He's kind of triggering that half court set. and his passing ability with his size. That pass to Miles Kelly won us the game the other night. Coming off that bottom screen and Kelly catching the ball was a really
Right.
tough catch, but it was a tremendous pass. But even last night, you just see Dylan Cardwell at the top of the key, triggering the offense after that second pass is made on the little weave pattern that we're doing up at the top of the key. I mean, we'd have never thought that 3 or 4 years ago, would we? And he's just worked himself into a potential NBA player with his size and defensive ability.
Yeah, defensively, I mean, you heard them talk about it last night. They feel like the coaching staff at Auburn feels like he may be one of the best overall defenders in the whole country because he's able to go out and cover guards. He's able to do what he does inside, and the versatility, like you're talking about. I think that's what makes him a marketable player at the next level. He's not going to give you much offense. He had a dunk last night. He had 2 points. He doesn't look to shoot the basketball, only shot twice. Everything he's going to try to do is create for others. I mean, he's a oversized point guard if you want to look at it that way. He's not going to dribble, obviously, and bring the ball up, but the offense does run through him when he's on the floor. And his defensive presence is unbelievable. And his ability to block shots and really man up down low and knock people around. And you got 5 fouls with him too, and he's going to use them. And I think a lot of people don't realize that that's part of the game in basketball is you can't take them with you, and you don't give up cheap baskets, and you put teams at the line and make them make free throws. But that's another thing that I wanted to talk about today is the continuation of shooting the free throws for Auburn is tremendous. At 14-17 last night. Again, if you're not shooting the basketball at the free throw line well, you're not winning these games against good teams. They were 12 of 19. They were 6 of 16 from outside the arc. We're better in all these categories than they are. You look at the number of shots, we got more shots off than they did. So, all the way around, this team is playing about as well as you could expect this time of year against the competition that we've played. So now you've beaten Houston, Iowa State, and North Carolina, and you would love to be able to win this game this afternoon at 4:00 against Memphis.
Yeah, 4:00 tip. Very winnable game. I think it's a good matchup for us. I'll be honest. Look, if we lose, it's not going to depend on what you and I sit here and say on the Auburn Blitz. I'm just so happy that we go into these ball games expecting to win. Expecting to win the Maui Invitational. Let that sink in, Auburn basketball fans. Let it sink in that you can watch that game last night and maybe question some calls when Auburn was up 16, 18 points that really brought North Carolina back in the fold a few different times, not only in the first half, but the second half. But you're arguing about some foul calls when you won by 12 or 13 points against a blue blood like North Carolina that is not on a down season. They're ranked 12th in the country. With guard play that's as good as anybody in the country, probably outside of Kansas. I think that's how good North Carolina's guards are. I don't think ours are far behind them, but I think we got to pinch ourselves a little bit, Brett. Sometimes you got to remember where you were and remember where you are and remember that this thing's not going to slow any time. But I'll say what I said to start this week. You got to take advantage of this year, though, too. I don't know that we'll ever put an entire group together that's better than this one. Not with that many seniors and not with who is, without a doubt, the leader for the player of the year in the country right now, Janai Broome. We've never had one of those. Again, embrace it. You say this all the time, especially high school. You say this to me, man, when we got a great player, we've got to learn to appreciate this.
Really
when we walk out there and when Tyree Gray's at quarterback, we got to learn to appreciate that more because we're not going to have a chance to see athletes like that every year. Or when Malcolm Simmons is, touching the football at Benjamin Russell and making plays that you and I are flipping out over, you got to learn to appreciate that not every year you get one of those. Well, Auburn not every year is going to have somebody that's going to be up for player of the year. And right now, I haven't looked at the odds, Brett, but he's got to be the leader. I mean, who else is even close to him right now? Is anybody else in the country that you would consider? The center Yeah, but
Yeah.
Dickinson
I'm
last
just
night,
saying he'll be the only one I think right now that would even be in the discussion.
did you see what happened with him last night?
I did, yeah. The kick to the head. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, those things are going to be remembered.
True.
Um, and you hate to say a negative thing like that could cause you to not be player of the year,
It could.
but here it definitely could if Janai keeps playing the way that he does. But here's another big plus. You watched the way the NCAA tournament went last year, Brett. You had to have post play. The two championship contenders had the best centers in the country last year. And a lot of the offense went through them. Didn't mean you can't, you got to hit shots from the perimeter now. We all
Sure.
know that. But the big game, the big man game has become a key part to these college basketball teams that are getting over the hump. Those two players you just mentioned there, they're the two best post players in the country. They're
Oh,
not the
for
two
sure.
best guards. So it's kind of crazy to look at the change up maybe of the college game in comparison to even the pro game,
Right.
that these post guys are
Well,
very vital.
things
They
come full
do.
circle, man. I mean, you go away from things because of trends, and then you get a couple of guys that's your strength, so you go through them, and then all of a sudden you start changing the trend of how things are done back to the way they used to be. So I'm not saying everybody's going to go back to recruiting a 7-foot center and lobbing it inside and trying to one-on-one post guy down to the basket, but Auburn's got two great ones, and they're going to use them. And they probably have the best player in the country on their team in Janai Broom. I don't know anybody arguing with that right now. So some comments rolling in, Randy. Justin said, Dylan, Chris Moore, team players, man. Love how our guys are unselfish. Chaney's been playing so well and can get frustrated not getting more PT or shots, but he looks to have such a positive attitude. Tony said they said on the broadcast last night there's only been two teams from the SEC that won the Maui Invitational. I said that a little bit earlier. It's Vanderbilt in Kentucky. Coach Jeff Himes comes in and says, I think there's a slight comparison. The current team is much more efficient in the post and much deeper. I think Chaney Johnson's one of the X factors on this team. There's no question about that. We've been talking about him for about a week and a half now. The length on the perimeter is also making a big difference. Really, Randy, the stuff you and I just talked about. I think the biggest difference is the firepower that AU has for multiple players. Kelly, Broom, Pettiford, Jones, Johnson, etc. Don't forget, Pegues is being very efficient at point guard right now. Just a few of my thoughts. All great points. And although Pegues is not scoring the basketball, the kid just can't seem to get one to fall. He is doing all the other things right, and you got to have him. You got to have his minutes.
Well, you need his minutes, but the thing I like about this team is if he doesn't get it going any better than he is
It's not the
offensively,
end of the world.
no, we got 2 point guards. Look, I watched these ball games, and I mentioned to you on our text thread last night, more minutes for Pettiford, please. When he's in the basketball game, Brett, we're way more explosive. He's got the ability to get to the rim. His defensive presence is through the roof. I think he's going to become a all NBA defensive type player. He's just that type of athlete. He's got those type of instincts, and he made some dagger threes last night at pivotal times when I felt like we needed a big shot.
He's always a clutch. His shots are so clutch.
Yeah, he'll jack a few up that you may question, but he'll make a few of those that he jacks that you would probably say, let's don't take that shot. So I love him. I know I say it every time we get on here, but we're very lucky to have him. And what a trade for us. I'm not knocking Aiden Holloway. I hope he has a great career and ends up in the NBA. But if you've got to have me choose between Tahad Pettiford and Aiden Holloway, this is not even a semi-debate. From a defensive standpoint and just a physicality standpoint, I think we've really taken a giant step forward in who we have there. And I hope JP Pegues gets off the yips. The three he made last night was about a half second too late, and that was that would have been helpful to the confidence, I'm sure. But he just can't find shots. It's like a lot like Holloway last year. If you're not unreal quickness wise like a Sharif Cooper, or physical like a Sexton that I mentioned with Tahad Pettiford, because the two of their games are comparable to me just from an athleticism standpoint, it's tough on you. I mean, I feel for these guys, and Pegues just never seems to get his spots to get shots, and he's missed enough of them now that he's a little passive too. A couple of times he had a chance to shoot last night, he didn't. He passed it up to someone else and ended up working out okay on a couple of times, I think. But if he could get back to, what he averaged, 18 points a game last year, Brett.
Right. Somewhere around in there.
If you get 7 or 8 from him, because we're not getting 7 or 8 from him right now.
No.
This team's ceiling's even higher than it is currently.
Oh, you took the words right out of my mouth. I thought to myself, okay, let's work through it. You got time.
Yeah.
We're playing good basketball. There's not a weight on his back right now forcing him to have to figure out, how to score right now. He needs to work through it, and he could be one of those that pops up, could be a pleasant surprise to contribute to this team later on down the line. So, again, a lot of basketball left to play. Justin said one other thing. Look what Bruce is doing with besides Pettiford, there aren't McDonald's All-American staff coaching and developing their ass off. We talked about that. I think Bruce in the pregame show last night talked about that. He said, and none of us, the coaching staff and the players, were on North Carolina's wish list. And, that was to try to get our guys in their mind, hey, look, not that they needed motivation to go out there and play, but basically he was saying, look, none of our guys were on their list of recruits. None of our coaches were being offered a job at North Carolina. So let's go out there with a little bit of a chip on our shoulder and show them how we play basketball. And so, hey.
Let me jump in real quick. I want to make a comment on that because I think this is key. I've had the benefit of going to the father-son basketball camp the last couple of years, so I've seen the way that this coaching group at least works together in an environment like that. I think we have Ira Bowman is as good a developer as there is in the country. Bruce talks about it all the time. I've seen it firsthand how he communicates, and he talked about it with Chaney Johnson that Ira's got him in the gym multiple times a day. He's the hardest worker, but you can personally be the hardest worker, but if you're not being developed by a great coach, then what you're personally doing in there doesn't matter. And I think we need to remind ourselves that this staff that Bruce Pearl's got is as good as anybody in the country has. I love Stephen Pearl, but I think Ira Bowman deserves a lot of credit because you're right. Whereas we question development on the football side over the last decade, we can't question it on the basketball side. Look how much better Bryce Brown got during his career at Auburn, Brett. He went from a fairly good player that was outside of the top 30 just in the state of Georgia when Auburn got him to one of the best players in program history. When he left that last year, I was like, put the jersey in the rafters. That's how good he was at Auburn. But the coaches that developed, Chaney Johnson's prime example. He was the best player on the court last night in the second half. Anybody watch that game sees that there are halves where he's the best player on the court. He's the most athletic player on the court last night. And it took development to get him there because he wasn't last year. So we need to remember that. And Justin makes a good statement there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people chiming in on coaches. Jeff said that secret weapon, in his opinion, is Marquise Daniel. You got Stephen Pearl, Ira Bowman. Marquise Daniel. You can go down the whole assistant list, and I think that's the whole point of the conversation. Is they got a great staff, top to bottom, and everybody's got their expertise and their area that they work with. Bruce said it last night. He said, against Iowa State, I coached the first half, and he said, then Stephen coached the second half, and you saw the difference. And but again, I think they understand that. That's the beauty of having a great staff that's versatile, that they may see something that you don't and something that needs to be changed. And Auburn changed some things in that Iowa State game, and we're able to come from – look, you're going to look up at the end of the year at that Iowa State team, and you're going to say, man, that may be one of the best wins we have. Look, I know Houston lost last night in overtime. Their guard – really is the straw that stirs the drink for them.
Physical.
And he just gave out of gas. He had a shot to beat Alabama at the end.
Yeah.
They really kind of screwed that that game away at the end. They had a 4-point lead, almost similar to what we had, and then allowed a team to come back and tie it. But you look at Iowa State as one of the. I'm telling you, at the end of the season, you're going to say that was the win maybe that was the most impressive. Michael said, "Will Howard ever get back out there on the floor? There's a lot of talent sitting on the bench." I was expecting last night maybe in a little bit of a lopsided game. We saw Turtle get in yesterday.
Yeah.
He didn't get in. The day before, but he didn't get in last night. So we haven't seen Ja'Kai Howard yet since all the stuff went on before the Houston game. So I don't know. Coach Pearl maybe is continuing to teach him a lesson. Maybe there's something that still hasn't resonated with him. I don't know. That's all speculation on my part. But Bruce Pearl would put him out there, I guess, when he's ready.
Well, I will say that the two of those guys have sat beside one another on the bench in the 2 home games that I've gone to since the incident that happened on the plane, and they're cheering as hard, if not harder, than anybody over there. And you can sense that Bruce Pearl's let them know, do you not realize what a good thing you have here?
Right.
Do you not realize there's 10 seniors on this roster that you're going to have a ton of opportunities if you just stay the course, and we'll find a way to work you in this year. And I would have expected to see him before now, but it tells me a lot more that I respect with Bruce Pearl is if there's a teaching situation, he feels like he needs to grow up a bit and possibly do some things different. We don't know what's going on the back end. We don't know from a work ethic standpoint how that's going, but something tells me before the year's out, he's going to have some moments that's going to really help this basketball team. We'll see. Right now, he's not even getting minutes, and I'm glad we have him. But again, you watch the way that we play. If the attitude's not completely fixed, you don't want to throw a screwball in the mix of this group, because the culture that's built on this program is, like Justin said earlier in a comment, just the way that you've got Chris Moore and others that come off the bench and know their role and they play it to the best of their ability. You don't get that too often in team environments, to have everybody really bond together the way that I think this one is.
Jerron said, I think we'll need the fresh legs of Howard with such a quick turnaround today. Could see him get some minutes, back-to-back games like this. You saw at the end of that first half, again, Broome carried Auburn in that first half. He was exhausted again, and I'm thinking, man, somebody's got to step up. I mean, he had 18 points and 10 rebounds in the first half. He only ended up with 23 points on the game. So that was positive, I thought, that he didn't have to come out and try to score 18 again. He allowed, and other guys stepped up. Now, he almost had a 20-20 night. He was 1 rebound shy of a 20-20 night, ended up with 19 boards. But you were able to get some other guys going where he didn't have to absolutely score every time he got down on the offensive side of the floor. So that was encouraging to me. Yes, we rode him when we needed to, but finally some of the other guys like Miles Kelly and Denver Jones got their legs under them, and they were able to help Auburn win pretty convincingly. Justin wanted to know if you stayed up or not. You let everybody know you did for the most part.
I stayed till half. I watched the beginning of the second half. We went on the run, and I turned it off and said that, first off, I'm not going to be sitting here with Brett making any sense if I keep it going. I'm brain dead as it is with my age and my stress that I have down here in Davie, Alabama currently, but I'll leave it at that. But no, I went to sleep, Justin. I know you're not shocked by that. About 5 minutes into the second half, but it was because of the start. If we would have started that second half not on the run and they'd have closed the gap, I thought they had a pretty good run to close out the first half to get it at least back to reasonable. If we wouldn't have played well to start the second half, but both starts of both halves, you couldn't ask for more out of
Auburn. So you take on Memphis today at 4:00 our time on ESPN. 6-0 Memphis. Look, I looked at the ESPN matchup predictor, and I got Auburn at 77.6%. So PJ Haggerty's their leading scorer on the season so far. He averages about 21 points a game, point guard for them. One of the things that you got to look at is most of the teams that you're going to play, their leading scorer is going to be a guard. You're going to look down at Auburn, and it's going to be Janai Broome at the forward position. Same with Kansas. I mean, you're going to have some teams that have inside guys, but majority of the time it's going to be a guard for most of these top teams. So looking forward to that matchup today. Again, like you said, Randy, you think it's a really, really good matchup. Some more comments coming in. Brent said UNC is a good team, and to keep the second half lead at least 1 point above the halftime score is pretty doggone impressive. I agree with that, Brent. Jeff said one last comment. Robert Allen was hired as a staff member this past all season. Keep an eye on this hire. Robert is a guy I recruited when I was at Wallace. He has been a personal basketball trainer for a lot of those guys that are coming out of Georgia, as well as guys that went to other schools. He's very well respected.
Let me jump in. For those that are just tuning in and don't know Jeff Hines is a basketball savant. I think he's lived it and loved it like nobody else that we're around, Brett. And I've got to give him benefit of the doubt. I told him this. It's not that I doubted him, but he made a call about 7 or 8 years ago in the high school ranks that whoever gets Christian Swears is going to really do a tremendous benefit for their program. Everybody go watch Huntsville High. We don't have a program any better in the state of Alabama than Huntsville High. They've got all five of their starters are D1 signees. And Jeff called that. Jeff made mention, and buddy, you were dead on there because they're now a national program. They lost in the semis last year at Huntsville, Brett. But they didn't lose a game in state until the semis, did they?
I don't think so.
I think they lost 2 games out of state in national tournaments, and then lost in the semis. So they haven't gotten over the hump yet, but they're back out again this year, and they're undefeated. And we've got an Auburn commitment coming from there. Right. That's an outside assassin that's really shooting the ball well in the early part of the season. So Jeff Hines knows his basketball.
We're going to need him and about 10 more because we're going to lose a bunch off this team. Justin said, what percentage would y'all give Auburn going into Cameron Indoor and pulling off that win right now?
Very high. I watched the game. Let me jump. I want to give an answer. I want to talk. I'm glad he brought that up. Their post play.
They're the tallest team in the country.
They're not very physical though.
No.
I'm telling you, I watched Cooper Flagg last night. He may end up with 8 blocks against us over there. And it's not like you're going there. It's very tough to play in somebody else's home environment and win. We see it in the SEC every year. But if there is ever an Auburn team that can win over there, I think it's this one. They can be pounded in the post. Last night, Kansas shot it well from the perimeter, but I watched the way their post players were playing. They weren't banging nowhere near to the level that Auburn currently is when the ball's down in the post, or you have to commit to us.
Kansas to win that game, Randy, without Hunter Dickinson at all in the second half was pretty impressive.
No, I think we can. I like the matchup over there. We may lose by 20, but I'm telling you now, I watched a lot of that Duke game last night, and I'm glad Justin brought it up. I wanted to say it, and I don't think I was before that comment came across. That's a winnable game for us. Saying a lot.
It is a winnable game. I mean, why wouldn't it be? I mean, you'd have to, really just kind of fall apart at the seams. But I think the athleticism and the way we play kind of takes a lot of that out. And I watched it too, and I don't want to bang on the kid, but in the 2 losses for Duke, Cooper Flagg turned the ball over. Now I know he spun, and it wasn't the last possession that he turned the ball over, but it was the possession before where he had the ball and he tried to spin in traffic and they stole it away from him. Mm-hmm. He did the same thing against Kentucky. He turned it over twice in consecutive possessions against them. So he's learning, and he's a freshman.
Oh, he's a star. He's a great player. I'm not knocking him.
But he's cost them a couple of games because of turnovers at the end of the game.
And when we want to close a game, you saw it 2 games ago. We want to close a game. We're throwing 5 seniors out there at you. They've been through the fire. They've been through these games. So um, again, we got to take advantage this year that you've got a lot of these pieces in place with some youth that we're proud to have. But Brett, 10 seniors, some of these teams
You
like
don't get
Duke,
that ever.
no, you don't. You don't get that. And I love the way Bruce is leaning on them late in basketball games, like Denver Jones. And the thing I said on my first comment of the show, if Denver Jones keeps shooting the way that he is from the free throw line, was he an 86% free throw shooter last year? He's missed one this year.
Yeah, they jinxed him last night.
Well, they jinxed him, but he's only missed one,
He's
and
missed
and
one free throw.
he's got such a repeatable shot from the free throw line.
Right.
That's in rhythm. It's when you coach in basketball, you want to teach a young kid do something that you can repeat over and over and over again. And Buddy Denver Jones is the perfect one to watch for that. But Brett, winning basketball games is making free throw shots at the end of games. And if Denver Jones is your point guard, and we saw in the Houston game with Todd Pettiford, he got fouled late. He went to the free throw line. He looked so confident that if he'd have shot 100 of them, I think he was going to make all 100.
Right.
And they didn't touch a rim going down. That's a massive benefit for a team when you've got guards that want the ball and want to go to the free throw line to win it. We've got one in Denver Jones for sure.
So a week from today, we travel to Durham to play Duke. December the 4th. That game will tip at 8:15. Again, got to get through this one today. Want to win this one, and would love to celebrate and hang a banner saying you won the most prestigious, basketball tournament in the country, and then that's the Maui Invitational. They were the original, Randy. They set all this battle for Atlantis and challenge in Cancun and all this stuff that where you travel. I love all these tournaments. The Vegas tournament that's going on. There's a couple out there right now. Alabama's in one of them, and then then you got the one that Duke and Kansas are in and all that. But but the Maui's the one that's prestigious. I mean, they invite what they feel like are the elite teams, and I love the way Auburn's playing in this tournament. I love our matchup, like you said, tonight against a very good Memphis team. They're young though, but I like our matchup and how we're going to do it.
Let me jump in, and meant to mention it to start this week off, but someone that really helped build that Maui tournament's Bill Walton.
Absolutely.
Such a character, and the way that he carried himself during that tournament, probably more than others, and how leisurely he was at calling the games. But some don't like him. I loved him. Brett, we've been calling and broadcasting ball games together for a very, very long time. There's nothing worse I hate coming out of someone sitting in a color position than to not have any color. I mean, have some life. Get up there and Dick Vitale it a little bit. If you can't have fun doing what they're doing, then you need to go find you something else to do, because I don't need to listen to somebody talk over my head the whole time. I want to listen to someone that's calling color that is just having more fun than anybody else is in the gym. And Bill Walton was that, and he was a key part to building this Maui tournament up to what it is. It would have been great to watch him. A couple of nights ago, we come from 18 down to call that game. It would have added a lot to it. It really would. So I just wanted to mention that tough loss for basketball-loving folks like me and you. We need to remember how much he and Dick Vitale and others really helped build this game to what we love right now.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. They keep showing memories of him during all these games, and rightfully so. I mean, he was a major part of it. But maybe Auburn can win this game today and hang a banner, and then head back for a little bit of a break before they head up to the SEC-ACC Challenge. Alabama will be playing North Carolina in that challenge. So we'll be right up the road from one another in North Carolina. There's only about 10 or 15 miles that separate Duke and North Carolina. And, that should be a fun matchup to see how the SEC matches up against the ACC. Before we get off, we're getting ready for the Iron Bowl. It's Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. So we hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. out there and, some time with your family and your friends and to be able to kind of reflect on the year. That's what Thanksgiving's all about. You kind of get a chance to reflect on the past year and be thankful for everything that we have. Then we'll turn our focus. You got high school football semifinals on Friday. Then you got the Iron Bowl on Saturday. You got a little bit of jawing back and forth between both teams. I think it's great. Everybody's like, people run their mouth. Who cares, man? I mean, everybody's like, can you back it up? I'm like, what?
Yeah,
okay. What if you do? If you don't, who cares? I mean, what have you lost? I mean, what's wrong with having some confidence? And I kind of went in a little rant yesterday afternoon with all y'all. I just kind of, as I watched a replay, not a replay, but as you're scrolling around on social media and you see all week how much, that Texas A&M game highlights are being replayed. And, man, look, I know our record's terrible, and I know we ain't had a good year, but, man, that was such a culmination of a lot of frustration and stuff built up, and the students having fun and everybody smiling and music playing, and you get to do that, and then you got your aristocrats out there that want to criticize, well, we'd never do that. We'd never go down on the field. I'm like, man, what's the whole point of doing all this stuff anyway? If you can't enjoy the ride, if you can't enjoy the wins, if you can't let your hair down a little bit, who are you trying to impress? Yourself? Are you the president of your own fan club? I mean, is that what you're trying to do? Is you're trying to keep some status up here that nobody gives a shit about anyway? I mean, is that what you're trying to do? I mean, are you stacking trophies and watching the dust collect on them and going, well, look at our trophies over here, man. It's just great. And it's all good that you win it. But if you can't enjoy it along the way, I'm not saying run on the field after every win, but it's okay. And you don't have anybody to answer to if you did. You don't have anybody that you have to go, yeah, I ran on the field. Am I in trouble? I mean, go out and have a good time. Enjoy the wins because, man, live each day as they go, man.
We're not equal programs. I mean, the reality is that some wins for some programs are a lot more important than they are at others. And you can,
absolutely.
But like, I don't like Alabama. I don't know about you. I mean, this is Iron Bowl week. I can't stand them. I mean, I've got family members that I love to death.
It didn't have to be Iron Bowl week to not like them.
But I don't like them as Alabama fans, and they really utterly disgust me as Alabama fans for the most part. So when they bring up, why would y'all do that? It makes me want to do it more. Like I'm one of those guys that, like, if Alabama says, like, we would never do that, well, I'm like, well, buddy, that makes me want to go more. And I've said it over the years with the uniform selections for Auburn. I'm like, just because Alabama wants to stay with the exact same look and the exact same uniform doesn't mean Auburn has to. But we get caught up in these feels and these lores, and you and I have been on these talks with our good friend Luke Robinson over the years, and it's fun. But I couldn't possibly care less what they think. I do think that it was a time to run on the field. It was a massive game for Hugh Freeze. It's a massive game recruiting wise. I think Auburn's got a chance. I think the kids that were there that were being recruited that we're trying to close on loved to see Auburn run on the field. And if that's the only reason for doing it, that's a good enough reason for me. Because I think if Auburn flips Naeem Offord and we get a couple more of these guys, we're going to have a top 3 class. Pinch yourself, by the way, Auburn fans. We ain't had a top 3 recruiting class maybe ever. Have we had a top 3 recruiting class ever?
I don't know that we have.
Okay, well,
I want to say one thing about that, and I'll let you go back to the comment.
No, I'm done. You finish it out.
Well, I mean, it's also circumstantial when you do stuff like that. It's reactionary. If Auburn went on to beat Texas A&M 42-17, and it was well in hand in the fourth quarter, ain't nobody running on the field. I mean, probably half the student section's gone, and then you're just kind of okay. We had a big win, but it was the way the game, and that's what I said. Me and JJ had a conversation yesterday, and I told him, I said it's all circumstantial. It's a lot of times it's the way a game ends. It may not be about what's on the line for the game, but it may be the way a game ends, or what happens to trigger somebody or a group to run on the field. So look, the only time I ever remembered Auburn running on the field up until here recently a couple of times was kick six. And Randy, Alabama fans ran on the field for kick six. I saw them down there. I think after that one, everybody's like, I just got to run somewhere. I got to do something. I don't know what I saw. It's not that I like the outcome of it, but I just had to go do something. I mean, it's just, again, the moment, and it pours over onto the field. And look, hey, enjoy your wins. I mean, any program out there. I think this mindset of, hey, we just got to move on to the next game. I mean, okay, that's fine too. Yeah, you got to move on to the next game, but why did you put all that time and preparation and effort in just to kind of go, okay, we'll check a box and stuff? So enjoy that. Enjoy that.
But I'm enjoying basketball. I know that we're at the close here, but, I'm like Luke said a couple of years ago, Alabama fans will not know what we're missing until Nick Saban's gone. And I'm telling us as Auburn fans, I hope it doesn't go anywhere, but we won't know how great it is until we don't have Bruce Pearl around anymore, Brett. And it's as good as that program has ever been. And if we can win a championship, it would be as good as any Auburn program ever, in my opinion. I think it's coached up as well, if not better than any Auburn program ever, at least in my lifetime. So I know how good we've got it. You won't hear a single negative word come out of my mouth about that man and what he's built at Auburn. I'm just so thrilled that on a 4 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon heading into Thanksgiving that I've got a basketball game to go and watch.
Isn't that awesome?
And we may win a Maui Invitational, and we may have the odds-on player of the year on our roster at Auburn University. I mean, it's everybody sit back and enjoy it while we've got it. I mean, it is a wonderful thing to see what he's built over there.
John said that was a bigger win for Auburn than many realize currently, but they will look back on that win. I agree, John. And John's one of our Bammers that loves to watch our show.
Yep.
We love John. We love that he comments and we have a good time with each other. But, I mean, he's a realist. And I totally agree with his comment. I think that's another reason. And Andy said this on the reaction show on Sunday, Randy, with all of us. He said, will we look back on that one and say, was that the game?
Well, we're hopeful. We're very hopeful. I mean, and I think that a lot of that pent-up frustration came out there because Auburn's been faithful, man. We have shown up and supported and tried to be rabid and tried to create an amazing atmosphere for these new recruits and potential recruits to really be wowed with the overall look of what's going on at Auburn. And we got it on Saturday, and sometimes that emotion spills over, and I like it when the emotion spills over. It's kind of back to my Bill Walton statement, man. Have a little fun, enjoy yourself.
That's my whole point.
Not everything's got to be a business. This is not a business decision. This is not, just another day in the office. No, I mean, life is certainly way too difficult for everything just to be another damn day in the office.
I've had too many days in the office, and you have too.
I'm here right now. There's days going on. I got a dozen meetings to go day off of it right now. So I'm glad to start it with you every morning, at least positive before all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, we do have a
down
good time. Here. All right, some more comments. Brent said, it's like when Jim Fife learned Bama fans didn't like touchdown Auburn. He just kept doing it.
Oh, man.
He did it hard.
Amen. So. Amen. Yeah, and my favorite broadcaster ever. Now, would you show his broadcast and try to teach people around this is exactly how you do it? I don't know. I've never listened to him that way. All I know is he's the biggest and best homer in Auburn history. And you and I are probably sitting here doing what we're doing today because Jim Fife.
I know I am for 110%.
Well, I know that when you were young enough to be obsessed with it, that I was having the exact same obsession.
Right.
I didn't watch a lot of ball games. I turned the radio on and went outside and played and was immersed by calls with Jim Fife and whoever was his color back in the day, and was thrilled to have
Charlie Trotman for most.
I love Charlie Trotman. Yeah. I mean, Charlie Trotman had, he was a great color guy. I hated when he stopped. Stan was really good. Keep going down the list. I mean, I think Jason's doing a really good job right now. I'll say that. I've listened to a lot of Jason Campbell. Of course, he knows what he's talking about.
Oh, yeah.
But he's a massive homer. And I think he's great to have up there for Auburn. I mean, our broadcasters for football have always been really, really good. I think Andy's doing an amazing job. I think Andy's a tremendous football announcer. He's got a lot of passion for it, Brett. And sometimes people may think he's over the top. Not me. I want him to be even more over the top. I like those type of callers. I don't. If you want Keith Jackson, go listen to a Keith Jackson call. I want my broadcaster to be the biggest damn homer that you possibly can find on the market.
Should be.
Yes.
I mean,
agree.
when somebody turns over to the Ohio State Network, they should hear a Ohio State slanted broadcast. When they turn it over to all, I mean, what the hell are you turning that broadcast on to get mad about? When they scream that your team scored a touchdown, well, that's just unprofessional. So, well, whatever. You know where you can take that unprofessional. John said he remembers Jim Fife at WCOV before he was at AU. Yeah, I mean, Jim had a long running history in broadcast and journalism and all that. And so, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Look, we'll probably take tomorrow off in the morning and not be on. But whoa, Nelly, yeah. I mean, Jim, Keith Jackson.
I'm not saying Keith Jackson's not great. I'm saying he's a national broadcaster. He's not a homer broadcaster, and I'd rather it be humorous if I'm going to listen in, and that's the reason I normally, and I think a lot of fans, we hear it on Friday night. They may watch the game, but they want to hear you lose your mind when Benjamin Russell scores. If you don't lose your mind, then they all know that we're not playing real well. So your mic's off, Brett. It's still off. I'll close us out, and then you can send us on. We're 51 minutes in, so Brett can get that mic straightened out. If he doesn't, then flash me a couple of things. Bunkers, we're going to be at Bunkers here middle of December. If you haven't been by to see our new sponsors over in the Auburn market, stop by and see Bunkers. They're on West Glen. We'll be doing our 12 to 1 noon show from Bunkers coming up, I think, on December the 13th. So we'll have more information coming about that. But it's a great location there in Auburn. You see behind me, I'm in Dable. We're still working today. The reason we're working is elections matter. I've said that for the last few weeks, and we are wide open with our business here in Dable, Alabama. Hopefully having a new location opening in Auburn soon with our Sign Source and Lee Apparel business. But if you need corporate apparel, custom tees, promos, call on Lee Apparel, and signage from start to finish, design all the way to installation, call on Sign Source. 256-825-0197. We got a lot of content that Brett and I are rolling out today, not only with Auburn Blitz, but a lot of the AHSAA content that we'll be rolling out. Find our YouTube pages. Really important for us for you to continue to find our YouTube pages. Auburn Blitz is our YouTube page. So go subscribe, find it. It'll help us out and help us continue to pass along content that we know you want to see. So it's been a great show today. Brett's still out. You're still out. So I'm gonna close you out. Maybe somebody else can hear you, but I can't. If Brett's on, if not, I'm gonna close us out. Thanks for tuning into Auburn Blitz. We'll be back with you from 12 to 1 today with Auburn Blitz on the TV side, WOTM, as well as radio and social media.
All right, let's see. Am I back, guys? Somebody give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. A divine intervention there, John. Yeah, it went out. Can anybody still hear me? If you can, just let me know. If not, again, okay, Brent's got me back now. So, yeah, I don't know what happened to the mic, but, again, appreciate everybody. Want to say this real quick. We do have Sense of Green on as a part of our program now, and they're going to be the sponsor here on the Auburn Blitz podcast. I want to pull them up just a minute so we can talk about that. Sense of Green, for air that's cool and clean, call Sense of Green. Make sure you give them a shout, and we'll be talking more about them as the show goes on. And, again, want to thank everybody for being on the podcast with us every morning. Like Randy said, we will be back with you on Friday for another edition. We hope everybody has a great and wonderful Thanksgiving. May take some time to slow down a little bit and be thankful for everything that we have. So Maui Invitational Championship at 4 o'clock this afternoon. War Eagle, everybody.